Coming up this week on the Course of Life podcast, it was a showdown in Connecticut, as usual at the Travelers, with a gold medal winner shining, plus all sorts of golf headlines from the LPGA Tour Major to the Champions Tour to LIV Golf updates. And that's right, part 5 of our book club chat on the new scandalous Phil Mickelson book. It's getting pretty juicy. We're also tuned into some brand new movies that just came out, reviewing Top Gun and Elvis. This week, we've got a couple of cool guests, a little quick LIV golf perspective from Jeremy Schilling, and our featured guest, Nick O'Hearn, former world-class golfer, Australian, great guy, great companion to have on the show. And that's right, he beat Tiger Woods twice. And he tells us the story of both of his victories, plus grease meals and babka when we always end with food. All of it brought to you by our friends at Desert Fox Golf. They're the makers of the phone caddy. We have it on our golf cart every time that we play, and you should too. The easy way to keep your phone safe and together and where you need it to be seen at all times, so you can have the yardages out when you need it. You can watch your scores while you're on the course. You can keep yourself and your life updated while you play with the Desert Fox phone caddy. And it's easy to get by going to desertfoxgolf.com. Again, desertfoxgolf.com. Our promo code is Course of Life, promo code Course of Life to save 10% off. Check out your Desert Fox phone caddy with desertfoxgolf.com today.
Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Course of Life, part of the Morning Read Podcast Network. We are proud to be presented by our friends at Desert Fox Golf, Toasty Snacks, and D3 Golf. I'm Michael, he's Alex. And Alex, the PGA Tour remained in beautiful New England, our home up there in the northeast of the United States, for some people that don't know where New England is, for the Travelers Championship in Connecticut. And we almost had another playoff because, if you remember, last year at TPC River Highlands, we had that epic 8-hole playoff, and Harris English did make a run here early in the week. But it turned out that we didn't need a playoff because Theegala, who probably could have forced it and made it happen, just had a epic collapse, I think we could say, on the 72nd hole after claiming the lead. And so Xander Schauffele holds on and takes this one.
He did. Yeah. I mean, he was there in the end, and it kind of felt like Schauffele was pissing the tournament away, for lack of a better term. And Sahith Theegala seemed poised to get that win. He had that heartbreak at the Waste Management earlier this year, if you remember, and again, puts himself in that position. He's in the fairway bunker on the 72nd hole, Mike, only about 110 yards or so, but he had that ferocious lip right in front of him. And it didn't even clear the lip on his first attempt. The ball rolls right back to his feet. It's a double. It's a collapse. It's a choke. There's no other way to put it. Your heart goes out for Theegala, who's now pocketed a lot of money. He's got a couple seconds to his name, but definitely a very sad way for him to end his quest for the first win on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I mean, this was two compounding mistakes, obviously. First, probably taking the driver off the tee when you didn't really need to, and then going for it out of that bunker in one of the worst spots possible to try to reach a green when it's just like, why?
Yeah,
why?
Up one too, just make sure you get it over the lip and just barf it out into the fairway. So that way at least you got a pitch and a putt for par.
Make the guy in the lead have to birdie to win.
Yeah. And that's not what happened. So Schauffele just needed the 4, but got the 3 anyway. We had that Schauffele Cantlay final pairing. That was my closest pick of the week, Mike. Cantlay and Webb Simpson were flirting with the top 10 all week, but shout out to the gold medal winner, Schauffele. He stuck around and he got it done when he needed to on the 72nd hole to claim his 6th PGA Tour victory.
Let's also talk about the 20-year-old amateur who had one of the best finishes of an amateur in a long time in a PGA Tour event. Michael Thorbjornsen. Not bad. Pretty good.
Thorbjornsen officially. I'll give you an 8 out of 10 on that one.
All right. I appreciate it. I'm getting better.
Yeah, the 20-year-old still can't go out and get himself a drink at the bar, but he can finish top 5 on the PGA Tour. So shout out to him after coming off the U.S. Open performance and qualifying there. Definitely one of those names that I like to just shout out now, so that way you've got it in the back of your brain for when he emerges and wins really quickly in short time here. So you'll definitely get used to pronouncing that name in the years to come.
Yeah, indeed. Now, the question is, though, whether we're going to learn to pronounce his name on the PGA Tour or whether we're going to learn to announce it on the LIV.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and start calling them exhibition spectacles.
Yes, I like that. And this week's guest is gonna hit at that word as well too.
Yes.
The exhibition, which I appreciate. Yeah, the LIV drama has ceased to end, obviously, as the weeks have gone on, and now we've moved from across the pond to right in our backyard here with the first stateside event, the second tournament overall outside Portland, Oregon at Pumpkin Ridge. Defectors have included Matthew Wolff, the young 23-year-old American. Pat Perez may be a more predictable name, a veteran looking to get one more paycheck. And an interesting drama all around surrounding Koepka and all those other guys as well.
I kind of like Eminem, not surprised by Koepka. I'm surprised just because of the way he was speaking against going to the LIV Tour and that he wasn't going to, and that the obvious animosity between him and Bryson. And then this like complete about face, and it's like, oh yeah, I am gonna go.
Yeah, well, I wonder what changed so fast, Mike. What could it have possibly been that could have changed his mind?
Dollar signs make a big difference, except as we've said before to me. I wonder, though, if they were to offer Colin Morikawa a lifetime supply of bowls of milk for him to add his cereal to, if he would jump over to the LIV. And because that was the controversy this week, really, was Morikawa saying he was not going to the LIV Tour. He was going to stay on the PGA Tour, and that he needed to go add his cereal to his milk.
Yeah, and that phrasing just really warrants 30 seconds of conversation here, mid-drama. It needs to be said that Colin Morikawa is actually pouring milk into his cereal bowl before his cereal. I know what you're going to say. You're with this weird alliance with my wife, where you're both dry cereal people. Yes. But the milk before the cereal is a psycho serial killer move.
Yes, even I know that you do the cereal first and then you add the milk, because then you get the correct ratio. So, yeah,
it's just business degree at Cal Berkeley. Does he know something more than what we do or what we've known our entire life?
There was a clip, I don't know if you saw it, that he has one of those, and I've seen this before. This like milk pump that you can put on your jug of milk in the fridge, so you can just dispense milk instead of needing to unhook it. And I guess he uses that, and for whatever reason, he fills it into his bowl first before adding the cereal. This is no excuse for doing it this way.
Utterly fascinating. There's your little mini always end with food before the real deal at the end of this week's episode. But yeah, the Morikawa rebuttal was fierce the second time around and much more definite than the first one a week or two ago. So he is officially out, but we had to consult with our resident expert on all things logistics in golf, Jeremy Schilling, because we'd been wondering, like exactly where is this money coming from? How is this getting from the Saudis to the players? And I appreciate Jeremy for hopping on and giving us a little insight on that.
This is money being funneled through the Saudi public investment fund, and it's essentially oil money. They have endless amounts of money that come from their oil that have been funneled through the public investment fund of their government to sports wash, which means to change a reputation of a country or place by using sports.
Very trendy word. So thanks for getting that definition in there. Yeah.
Yes. I'm trying to hit all my, talking points here. And as PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan said earlier this week, if this is an arms race that's purely financial, we can't win. We do not have endless amounts of oil money. And that is why they can pour $4 billion reportedly into this.
Yeah, Jeremy puts it best there, that dirty oil money from an oppressive regime just trying to make themselves look all fine and dandy and let us think of them with rainbows and unicorns and all that fun stuff. And PGA Tour continuing to want none of that. However, they are wanting some of LIV's schedule ideas and event ideas.
Yes. They came with their own fire in the last week or two.
Yeah. So they're pumping more money into events, and they're going to add these like playoff events after the playoff events as well in the fall.
They are. Basically, what they're doing is they're saying, hey, if you are decent or above on the PGA Tour, this is how bad we want to keep you, and don't think about going to that other place. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, here, my question to a certain extent is, how do we... There's a lot of talk, too, about how the PGA Tour is maybe too crowded. There's too many players that are on tour. Do we need another slot in there in between the Korn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour?
Because or are we, if so facto, bolstering the Korn Ferry Tour in years to come? I know Jeremy helped break it down when I did connect with him and talk about how it's the same amount of tour cards that are being got. It's just being done in a very different method with different distribution lists. So it does make you wonder, what's the future of golf and the future of the schedule? We've been eyeing this year-long schedule for so long in the game. But now I think I wonder if we're not going back to a more seasonal schedule on the PGA Tour.
I prefer the seasonal schedule. I'm not a huge fan of the wraparound schedule. And the other thing, you kind of said it there, I think the problem is that the PGA Tour really needs to prevent is not so much these guys like a Brooks Koepka and a Bryson DeChambeau jumping ship and a DJ going over there for that money. It's making sure the young guys don't go take this guaranteed money from LIV. And to do that, it's not so much the PGA Tour whatever, that right. Whole joke. They need to put more money into the Korn Ferry Tour. That's what they need to do. They need to make it so that you can make a living doing this to get into the PGA Tour to play in the majors and to win all that money at that level.
Yeah, so you could have that batch of 100-something guys making that fine living and going after that tour card, but having a good existence on the Korn Ferry. So those are all the things that are being thrown around. Obviously, we head into this second LIV tournament with some curious eyes to see what happens at Pumpkin Ridge. But that's the update on that side of the world of golf. Let's get to some of the other tours now. Yeah.
So surprisingly, the USGA and the PGA of America decided to schedule two majors in the same weekend.
I know you're not a big fan of that. You don't like the overlap.
No, but let's start with the marquee event of the weekend, which really was the KPMG US Women's PGA at Congressional. First time at Congressional, a revamped Congressional.
Great
first
course.
time
Great course.
To see its kind of new changes that they did to it. Record purse was increased as well, like the week before the tournament, and had Lexi Thompson in there on a Sunday. So we had big names playing. Min-Jae Lee was in there as well. Got the low score in the clubhouse early. And it was a really fun Sunday. I don't know if you watched this at all to watch the end of this tournament. Lexi Thompson had a great surge and was able to get into the lead, but her short game let her down and she kind of collapsed at the end. And so In Gee Chun, who led really all week by like 7 strokes at one point, was able to capitalize and win at the end of the day and take another major. She's got 3 majors now.
Just quietly, yes. And that was one of those things where Chun was leading all week. So you saw Lexi creep up the leaderboard, but then all of a sudden Lexi gave herself a bona fide chance to really win. And just the Lexi Thompson's tears just seem to be a theme in major championships in recent years. And you said it all happens on the green too. There's a lot going on inside of her. It's really does appear to be mental at this point with her putting game, because it comes down to short putts being made and missed in her case when needed to. And just more heartbreak there for Thompson. Another great finish again, but not the way she wanted to go down.
And was reminded as well as we watched that, Lexi Thompson is only like 25, and we've been talking about her for like 15 years.
It's the Lydia Ko effect, I think. Those two are riding along like at the exact same point in their life together. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And then on the other side of the country, we had the U.S. Senior Open at LA Country Club, and Patty Harrington, you remember him? Padraig Harrington, he got to win for first timer to win the U.S. Senior Open. He holds on after having a little minor collapse as well, and holding off a Steve Stricker surge as well. So
very impressive stuff from Patty.
Padraig Harrington gets a U.S. Senior Open to add to his trophy cabinet.
And just so fun update from what I saw this week, for those who haven't followed Padraig Harrington or heard that name in a while. Yes, he finished 4th at the PGA last year, but besides that, he's been pretty quiet, but he's 50 now and ready to dominate the senior circuit with proof of that win. He has gone, not enough full Bryson, Mike, but he's gone about half Bryson. He has ratcheted up his swing. He is destined for 180 plus ball ball speed. He's obsessed with distance, and he just straight up overpowered the course a lot, similarly to the way Bryson did at Winged Foot in 2020. So interesting to see what route that takes Patty Harrington, a guy that's always experimenting and tinkering with his swing.
Yeah, and of course he won. Which one did he win? But then he went and completely revamped his swing, and it didn't really work out too well.
Yeah, after all of them, he won 3 majors in like a year and a half, and then he decided, you know what, that was good, but I'm going to go ahead and change again and get to the next level. He never really got to that next level, but that's him. He's a lifelong changer.
You know, trying to do the Tiger Woods thing and tinker with that swing, the only difference is Tiger Woods is Tiger Woods. And when he's tinkering with a swing, Tiger can still win. So,
yes. But for whatever it's worth, shout out to Patty for getting it done as soon as he turned 50.
Let's look ahead to the John Deere Classic. Is there anyone playing in this field that we care about?
Oh, man, I'll tell you, it was scrapping at the heap writing my weekly pool for my weekly preview for runyourpool.com. You can check out my full pool picks there. But it definitely took some extra research, I will say, Mike. The field for the John Deere, not as phenomenal as you would like it to be. Let's see. Daniel Berger, Zach Johnson, past champion, Steve Stricker. He's going to show up there after the nice week of the U.S. Senior Open. But yeah, funny enough, it looks like a lot of the guys are taking this weekend, Mike. They're going to make that flight over for the Scottish Open, get a little 1 week pregame in as far as links golf goes before the big show at St. Andrews. So because of that, definitely a lacking field in Illinois.
By the way, speaking of the Scottish Open, this has become such a big event that it's actually going to be on a network in the U.S. this weekend. I think it's going to be on CBS. So you're going to get to watch a DP World Tour event, right?
Yeah, full network treatment. That's pretty cool.
A U.S. network.
And it's a nice preview of links golf. Obviously, kind of the appetizer, if you will, to get the taste buds going for St. Andrews in a couple weeks' time. But not the greatest field at John Deere, but nonetheless, this presents a lot of opportunity for the younger guys, the guys that are lower on the list, and those last few guys that are still trying to eke out one of those final qualifying spots in the Open. That can be done with a good top 5 or top 10 finish here if the scenario is right. So I'm watching for that. Again, you can check out runyourpool.com. For my weekly preview and picks on Twitter. I'm at Course of Life 1 and you're at MWRINC.
Let's get back into Alan Shipnick's Phil, the rip-roaring and unauthorized biography of golf's most colorful superstar. You know, the way he flips these chapters back and forth, I don't know about you, but I actually, at the end of chapter 12, where we talked about Phil winning the 2010 Masters after his wife Amy's health scare and everything, I was a little choked up reading that chapter.
Look at you.
And then we immediately in the next chapter are reminded of, to a certain extent, how horrible a person Phil actually is.
Yeah, I'm flipping through the pages right now because there was a big reversal of roles between 11 and 12 for sure. Yeah. I did get a lot of sympathy going, so shout out to Alan for keeping it fair and balanced there throughout these later chapters, because things are starting to get dicey in Phil's personal and private life. Make no mistake about that, but good deeds and good moments for Phil are shining through. Chapter 11 started obviously with Butch Harmon, who defected from Tiger Woods camp to Phil Mickelson camp. So that led to a lot of interesting drama, and I love the way they highlighted the different secrets that Tiger used to get under Phil's skin as well.
Yeah, I don't want to maybe give away all the secrets, because I think everyone should go read the book for sure. If you're a golf fan in any way, this is or just like to read about interesting people, this is really interesting. But let's talk about the 4 things that Tiger did. Let's talk specifically. I'm looking into this on page 130 on his the third thing that Tiger would do. On holes when he was between a 3-wood or a driver, Woods would choose less club so he could fart around the fairway and make Mickelson watch him hit what would inevitably be a laser-like approach.
That is just absolutely savage by Tiger Woods right there. The idea that he knows he can mess around and just be a little less and hit less club, and he's not worried about the loss of 20, 30, 40, 50 yards by going with an iron or 3-wood, just so he can go first, stick it in Phil's face from further out, and then proceed with his round of intimidation. That was a surprising one. I remember seeing a lot of conservative Tiger moments back in the day, but I never really thought he was setting us up like that. I actually just thought he was working his way around the course, but no, he's just a savage through and through.
Which is it makes more sense of him being a savage to Phil because of what we learned when we read the book about Tiger a couple years ago, where he was always wanting to get more distance when maybe he didn't need to have that distance because of how good he is with his irons.
Definitely.
So
a lot of Phil versus Tiger came up in these chapters. I will do one shout out to the Boston area tournament that's no longer the Deutsche Bank Championship. Yeah. They talked about how Phil finally got one over in the 2007 Deutsche Bank. They went head to head there at TPC Boston, and Phil got the better of Tiger. He'd been waiting for that moment for a while.
Yeah, that was all those matchups that we finally did get late in the 2010s and early 20, or the late 20-aughts and the early 2010s between the two of them was just really brings back a lot of memories. And we also got to see a lot in chapter 11 and 12 and 13 to a certain extent, just how much of a philanthropist and how charitable Phil really is.
That was surprising. That was not just like one-off story. That was several instances where he was going out of his way to help the less fortunate or put a smile on a kid's day or do something great for a local involvement or community charity. And those shine through. Again, there was a very good front by Alan Shipnick to make this very balanced. While the scandal's there, you see the softer side of Phil. The scandal being maybe Phil versus the tour, which starts to eke itself out in very small cracks here and there. Nothing near what had happened in recent times here in 2022, but those first little chinks in the armor of that relationship begin to form in chapter 11 and 12.
Yeah, you know what I'm starting to form in my head. My opinion of Phil is that Phil, as a professional athlete, is a dick, but Phil as a human being is a great guy. Minus the betting.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's not always that way. There's a lot of caveats there with the betting too. Yeah. It's funny to see, again, this dichotomy is what's being shown throughout in the book, and that there are two just very diverse sides of Phil. At moments, you see the good come out on the golf course, but mostly you see the bad. And then at moments, you see the good come out behind the scenes, but you also see the bad. So it feels like there's a multiple personality disorder working through Phil Mickelson right now. It's on full display. But one thing that is not to be argued about is obviously the way he handled everything regarding his wife, Amy, and his health and his mother's health as well, too. That was a big moment in his career where he definitely showed his honor and maturity as both a husband and father in that situation. And you could tell that Amy is not only loved by the Mickelson family, by everyone out on tour as well.
Yeah. And it reminds us of how special Augusta is as a golf course, that these guys can go in there. And we've seen it a lot from Tiger. He goes in there every year and he just seems to have another gear that he can go into no matter how bad his game is, or what's going on.
A half a leg, he can make the cut, right? Yeah.
And we've seen that from a lot of guys, that they're able to go into Augusta and just like get over everything. And Phil in 2010, I don't know if I knew this back in 2010 or I certainly don't remember it, about Amy's health and his mother's health, and him going in there and being able to win all that pressure and being able to go in and hit the shot of the tournament and one of the shots of the 2000s in general with that pine straw on the par 5. I mean, that was a magnificent shot, one we consistently see on highlight reels every time we go back to Augusta. Just makes that win even more impressive.
Yeah,
of what
that
he was
an
able
amazing
to
shot, Mike. And it's funny, when I went to Augusta a few months ago, I was trying to recall all of my favorite master shots as I was walking the grounds and just trying to visualize the spots. There were really only a few that came to my mind in the moment. Obviously, Tiger's chip on 16 and seeing that angle and watching where that ball rolled down the hill. But the other one was walking the bend at 13 and seeing exactly where Phil's ball was in that pine straw, and the shot he had to execute to get over Rays Creek and onto that par 5 green. Truly unbelievable. And that was the hallmark moment of that victory.
And then after that, we move forward and we really get into Phil's gambling
problems. We're betting in chapter 13.
We are indeed $1 million NFL Sundays in Vegas.
Not just like, oh yeah, I have $100 on each game. Like, oh, okay, all right, that's some fun action. No, I've spread $1 million across the board here, and I've got every TV set up at the casino, and I'm ready to roll. That's a lot of pressure on a Sunday of bets right there.
I love the line where they all go down to place their bets, and he tells everyone to go first because what he's going to bet may change the lines.
Yes. In other words, for those at home who may not know, Phil's going to bet so much money on the game that the Vegas sportsbook will see that bet come in, and then they will decide that they're going to move the actual betting line of the game because so much money has been put on one side. Those are the kind of bets that Phil Mickelson is apparently laying down.
He's also putting down big money on the golf course, and past guest Mark Baldwin shared a story in this book.
What a cameo.
This was juicy. And just how dangerous Phil is on the course, no matter, really getting inside the ropes feeling of what it's like to play against Phil.
Yeah, this was like, Mark Baldwin being the hired gun to play in Vegas against Phil Mickelson in a money match. No pressure there at all. And I guess Mark didn't feel it for the most part. He was crushing Phil in this match all the way until Phil absolutely had his back up against the wall. And when the tough gets going, Phil gets going, especially when there's money on the line. An epic 18th hole finish where Phil just clipped our buddy Mark Baldwin in the end. But an epic story indeed that needs to be read in full.
Let's touch on one last thing, and that's my favorite, and I say that with as much sarcasm as possible, NFL quarterback Tony Romo.
Yes, that's right. Tony Romo did get mentioned. I didn't think they would sneak Mark Baldwin and Tony Romo into the same chapter, but here we are, right? The fight for Tony Romo's friendship was on full display. Allegiances to both Tiger and Phil, and it was just very funny hearing that name get brought up in chapter 13. But very precious moments there, and lots of name drops in the last few chapters of this book. So it's been fun to see those.
Yeah, we've only got 6 chapters left, just 2 weeks left to get through this book. And I'm excited for the rest here because as chapter 13 ended, Shipnick wrote, it was Mickelson had no way of knowing that the highs were about to get much higher and the lows a heck of a lot lower.
That's a tease for you right there. Well done. Yeah.
So we'll have chapters 14, 15, and 16 next week as we head into the final 2 weeks of reading Phil, the rip-roaring and unauthorized biography of golf's most colorful superstar by Alan Shipnick. I'm really excited to finish this guy up. Really excited.
It's been good. Yeah.
Let's switch over to Tuned In, where we share what we're tuning into outside of the world of sports. We both headed to the movie theater this past weekend.
Look at us just getting our Siskel and Ebert on, delivering reviews for cutting-edge box office hits. Well, what podcast is this? Where are we right now?
I don't know. Well, let's start with yours because you had teased that you were going to be doing this last week as well. You got some Tom Cruise action in, didn't you?
Yep, Top Gun. Finally went and saw it. By the way, Mike, you'll appreciate this. $5 movies at my local movie house on Wednesdays.
Nice.
That's a nice deal, right?
Yeah.
So as we got down and watched Top Gun, we're very well done, I will say. Cruise was not lying. You have to see the movie in the theater. The sound experience is unlike any other, and it hits all the points of emotion. You laugh, you cry, you chuckle, you're confused, you're sad. All the emotions are hit. It's a great remake that plays on all the emotions of the original, but offers its own unique story. So I highly recommend. I'm going 4.5 out of 5 stars on this.
Oh, wow. Probably
the best in movie theater I've seen in 2022. I don't see many, so that's not a high curb, but thoroughly enjoyed it.
Are you gonna? I know you still have a beard, right? You're still sporting the beard.
I did, but it just came off because unfortunately my Celtics have been eliminated. So
I was gonna ask if you were gonna shave just to leave the Miles Teller mustache.
Funny enough, when I did do the shave, I left the mustache, and actually, I may have a photo that I can share with you.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send that my way.
Have one. I can't believe I just admitted that either, but I may have it.
Well, now you said it on the show. We need to put it up on social
somewhere. It exists.
Somewhere.
Let's put it that way. So.
We might see it.
I don't think I can pull the mustache off as well as Miles Teller, just for spoilers.
Yeah. For me this weekend, I went and saw Elvis.
Yes, the other box office hit. How was it?
It was a bit of a mess.
Oh,
to be
no.
perfectly
Jeez. I'm excited for this one.
Austin Butler was fantastic in this movie. He is a shoo-in for an Oscar nomination. Tom Hanks was surprisingly the worst part of the movie.
Really? I've heard that from a couple other branches on the internet, but hearing that from you really verifies it. What was so remarkably bad about one of the most legendary actors of our generation?
I just didn't like his character that much. And part of that comes back to the movie was oddly framed through his characters, the Colonel, who he plays, Colonel Parker, Elvis's longtime agent who financially abused him. The story is told through Colonel Parker as a narrator, so we get a lot of him in it. But the whole movie, I really walked away from the movie wondering what story was I really being told here about Elvis, and I don't know.
Well, it sounds like Tom Hanks demanded that the movie be about him. That's what it sounds like to me.
I don't think so. I will say it was a fantastic. It was a great kind of look into Elvis's music and to hear it. And there was a great mix of Elvis music and remixed versions of Elvis music from R&B and hip hop. And, Elvis's music was taking a lot of soul and gospel and he was singing songs written by Black people and singing it as a white person. So they became successful. He popularized their music, which we see a lot through history. And what I think is hilarious is I went onto iTunes to go buy the soundtrack, actually, which I'm listening through. And I'm reading some of the comments, and I just have to say, I think it's dumb when people are saying, why are they doing R&B and hip hop remixes of Elvis? That's not Elvis. Get the ghetto out of Elvis. And it's like, Elvis is ghetto. That's what Elvis did.
Yeah, I think people don't know their history when they're commenting like that.
Yes, it's really kind of hilariously sad. Yeah. But what I would say is download the soundtrack, listen to the music, wait for this to come out on streaming, and watch it for free.
What is this? I don't know. Give me 3. How many out of 5 stars? It sounds like you're going low here.
I'm giving it 3. It's like a generous 3, only because of Austin Butler. Austin Butler was fantastic.
I'll check out the soundtrack. Love it.
Let's get into this week's guest. Alex, there's not many human beings out there in the world that can say they've beat Tiger Woods head-to-head twice, and not just in the Phil Mickelson way where you beat him in a round but you didn't beat him in a tournament. I'm talking about actually beating him in a tournament in match play. And that's what we get out of this week in the Australian Nick O'Hearn.
Absolutely. A really cool guest that shares some unique perspective from the world of golf past and going back to that Tiger era, which we love reminiscing on. And Nick hits all those memory points. A fantastic personality that's up to a lot more as well, too, with his new writings and his partnerships as well. So it's going to be a very exciting conversation with an Australian lad who's a great guest in the course of life.
And we'll get to that conversation in just a moment. But first, let's talk about our favorite and the official on-course betting app of Course of Life, and that is $. D3. We're gearing up for our match. I was supposed to play this past weekend in our match, but unfortunately, my playing partner got ill and wasn't able to play. So instead, I'm going to play next week, and instead of playing in Savannah and playing you in Austin, like we usually do, long distance like this, I'm going to go play in Virginia. And of course, I haven't played in a while, and I'll have the GPS function fired up on the app, so I'll be able to see where I am on the course and how far it is to the green, because it's got a built-in GPS as you're going around and recording your scores. Yeah, just one of the great features of the app. And like you said, that's the great part about playing on D3, is it's okay if you need to reschedule. That's the beauty of it. Since we're playing a remote match, you can play your match whenever you need to, as long as it's within a couple weeks of my round. It's a go and it's live. So I await your results, and we'll see how we fare in this format. I think we're going stable for this time around. It might be just straight up stroke play, but there's a few different formats that you can check out on the app. And like we said, you can wager for money with your friends, and you can exchange that money right within the app, and you can take it out immediately. So check out the D3 Golf app today. Our promo code is COL as well, too. So that's promo code COL when you're joining the D3 Golf app. We look forward to seeing you on D3. Next up on the tee from Australia, a widely accomplished professional, 6 pro wins. He stared down Tiger twice in the match play and came out on top. He's got a new book out as well, How to Play Your Best Golf Strategies from a Tour Pro. It's Nick O'Hearn joining us on the Course of Life. Nick, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Alex. It's great to be chatting with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for connecting and making the time as well, too. I know our listeners are going to appreciate this conversation. You're a great fixture in past golf memories and a lot of fun stories that we'll get to. But I want to start specifically regarding match play because everyone knows you for your prowess specifically in match play. And I'm curious, what was match play a fixture for you growing up in Australia playing junior golf? Because it wasn't very widely popularly done in United States junior golf, and I'm wondering if there was experience there at all.
Yeah, there was plenty of experience. That's the beauty of golf here in Australia is every club has what we call a pennant team. So you take your best 7 players, so to speak, and you play against another club and their best 7 players. And then you have different levels, different grades. So it's juniors, it's A, B, C grade, kind of like, minor league baseball in a way. A, AA, and AAA, and then obviously the big leagues is the senior team, and I basically just grew up playing match play most weekends. So that sort of format, that one-on-one competitive nature, is what I've always enjoyed and always loved, and I just wish there was more of it in the pro game. But unfortunately, it only really came about once a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk us through maybe the moment when you realize, obviously you got to a great point in your career when you're inside that top 64 and you're playing in the WGC Dell Match Play. I live here now in Austin, Texas, where it's hosted every year, and it's the elite of the elite every year. So getting there, I guess, what was your first experience? Was it 2005 or had you qualified before?
I actually played my first World Match Play down here in Australia. They had it back in about, I'm thinking around 2001, where they ventured down here to a golf course called Metropolitan in Melbourne. And I think I was ranked around 100, 101 in the world, something like that. And because it was down here in Australia, a lot of the players just didn't want to travel down and compete. So I actually snuck in. I think I was like the last person in or the second last person in. And my first round, I played Hal Sutton, who was, I think, seeded number 2. He was obviously still playing really well and managed to get past him. And I ended up beating about 3 Americans. And I think I played Steve Stricker in the quarterfinal and unfortunately lost to him on the 20th. And Steve went on to win. And I think that was sort of the second or maybe the first resurgence in his career, so to speak, and that really kick-started him again. So he's got me to thank for that one. but then I played the next time would have been 2005, you're correct, at the World Match Play. Back then it was La Costa in Carlsbad, Southern California, and that was when I first came up against Tiger Woods in the second round there, I believe. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. The playing against Tiger is like nothing else, really. It's first time I'd actually played with him too, so I wasn't sure what to expect. And interestingly, on the first tee that morning, he absolutely unloaded one off the first, and I made a point from then on not to actually watch him tee off because I just didn't want to get consumed by how good it was. And as it turned out, as we walked down the first fairway, I was about 40 meters behind him off the tee, but I kind of expected that, so to speak.
Yep.
And a lot of people, they always said to me, how did you do it? And I said, well, I had a bit of a game plan going in because up until that point, I think Tiger had only ever won a major when he was either leading or tied going into the final.
Yeah, I was going to ask about being up versus never being down, which is definitely something I know you used for your advantage in getting these wins, right?
Exactly. So our game plan, my caddy and I, we said, right, we can't get behind to this guy because as it turns out, he is the ultimate front runner. So on the first hole, funnily enough, I had about an 8-foot putt for par to halve the hole. And as I'm lining the putt up, my caddy says to me, Nick, this is for the match, which is a pretty big call, obviously.
No pressure.
No pressure, yeah. But he knew that would really lock me in. And sure enough, I rolled it in, birdied the next 2 holes to go 2 up after 3 and really never let him back into the match and ended up winning 3 and 1. But I played some really good golf that day. I was probably 5 or 6 under for the day. And yeah, it was pretty cool. But, at the time, I really had no chance to think about it because I had to go back out in the afternoon and play Luke Donald. And unfortunately, Luke didn't have much chance because I was in fine form and I beat him about 5 and 4 in the end. So I got through to the quarterfinal again, but I just couldn't quite get far enough into it. I would have loved to have won it in the final, but it was a fun time.
Yeah, the format's absolutely brutal, and I've seen it firsthand now being at the tournament in Austin, especially for those players that do make it to the weekend, playing potentially 2 matches on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. It's a grind, and it's hard to keep the gas going, but you've had some impressive runs in the tournament. That was obviously 2005 you highlighted, and then again in 2007 in a little bit of a more interesting drama-filled match. It went extra holes the second time you were able to tame Tiger. I guess what was the biggest difference for you in beating Tiger the second time around versus the first time in match play?
Yeah, I think the first time I felt really in control the whole way. I got up early and was playing really good golf and just sort of kept him, at bay, so to speak. And then the second time, Tiger was going into that tournament trying to break a record by Byron Nelson back in 1945, where Byron won 11 tournaments in a row on the tour, and Tiger, I think, had won the previous 6 tournaments going into the match play. So he was going for number 7, and obviously a lot of people didn't want me to win. But as it turned out, it was a really cold and bit of a miserable day. We're in Tucson, Arizona, and the cold doesn't really suit Tiger that much, I don't think. And early on, I was just playing nice, steady golf, going on my, okay, let's not get behind again. And as it turned out, I think I parred the first 7 holes and I was 4 up. So he was playing some pretty awful golf to begin with. But, it was a day where par was a pretty good score anyway.
Right.
And then I think on the 8th hole, he hit one of these long irons where he gave it the famous twirl, that famous twirl that he does after he hits it. And as soon as he did that, I've gone, oh, no, I think he's found his game again. And sure enough, he just made birdie after birdie after birdie, and he pegged me all the way back to level through 16 holes. And then I birdied 17 to go 1 up again. And then on the 18th, he had an 8-foot putt for birdie to send it into extra holes. And I gave my ball to my caddy and I said, give me a new one because I know we're going extras. He doesn't miss these. And sure enough, he didn't. And then on the 19th hole, he had his one chance to beat me. At this point, I still hadn't trailed in 2 matches against him. And on the 19th hole, he had about a 5-footer for birdie to win the match. And unfortunately, it didn't go in. He blamed a pitch mark. But, I thought, well, maybe, he thought about, hang on, I got a chance to beat him.
A rare bird miss from Tiger in that moment right there.
Yeah, it certainly was. But he missed it, and then I got him on the next. So in 2 matches, I haven't trailed, and I guess you could say my theory holds true.
Definitely. Nick O'Hearn, I definitely will remember your name forever because you were a bracket buster for both of those match play tournaments. So congrats to you for doing that and doing the unthinkable twice. It was a really cool landmark of your career. But just on top of that, I want to talk about the spot that you put yourself in through everything you did on the Australasian European tours in the late 90s and early 2000s to get yourself to that position where you could play U.S. events and majors. And in 2005, what were your first memories of being able to really say, I made it in the world of golf and I got into these landmark events?
Yeah, well, my background is interesting because, people ask, how did you do it? And it was a bit of a strange one. I came through the back door, so to speak, because as an amateur, the lowest handicap I got down to was a 2. And when I turned pro, I was 19 years old when I turned pro and I was off a 4 handicap. So I did what's called a traineeship to become a club professional, where you learn how to teach and repair clubs and work in a golf shop. So I did that until my early to mid 20s, and then when I was about 25, 26, my wife and I we made a 3-year plan that let's give golf a real serious go. And if at the end of 3 years I haven't got my card here in Australia, then it's time to go back to teaching and working in a golf shop. And it's funny when you put a plan in motion, how the right people come into your life at the right times. And that's when I met my swing coach. We started working with a sports psychologist as well and really rounded out things with my diet and fitness and started playing very well here in Australia. And I just sort of slowly climbed the ladder, so to speak. I never jumped 2 or 3 rungs at a time. It was only one rung at a time. And after some success here in Australia in my late 20s, I ventured over to Europe to play the European Tour for a number of years, slowly worked my world ranking down into the top 50, and that enabled me to then start heading across to America to play the majors and the big events like Memorial and Bay Hill and things like that. And, I did that for 2 years where I played both the European and PGA Tours, which is a very
That's the ultimate travel schedule in the world of golf, yeah.
Yeah, it's easy if you got your own private jet, but that's not me for sure. So I was racking up the frequent flyer miles and eventually with a young family, we decided to move across permanently to America and base ourselves in Orlando, Florida. And we spent about 13 years there. So it was a lot of fun. And playing the PGA Tour is, like everyone's dream, basically, to play against the best players in the world and compete against Tiger and Ernie and all those sorts of players and have some success, so to speak. But my game was built more on consistency. It wasn't really about smashing the ball a long way. I was probably one of the shortest hitters on tour, but I was very accurate and I had a good short game and I thought pretty well. So you add all those things up and it results in a lot of consistent finishes. And I was in the top 50 for a number of years, but unfortunately I was never able to win on the US. But what I'm probably most well known for is what you mentioned, is for beating Tiger a couple of times.
Absolutely. And it's a great highlight. And there were a lot of fantastic finishes in your career throughout all over the world, which is very unique. It's one thing to be a professional golfer, but it's another to be a worldwide professional golfer. And you were absolutely that. People can check the wiki or check the PGA Tour website for all that, but it's banked indeed. One highlight I do want to get to before we get to kind of what playing is like for you these days is I need you to walk us through the Australian PGA victory in 2006. Winning in style, to say the least. I'd say maybe this is one of the Nick O'Hearn moments that stands out in my mind, but take us through it.
Yeah, well, people say, what's your best moment in golf and what's your worst? And I said, well, they actually happened within an hour of each other. So,
perfect, yes.
As it turned out, on the 72nd hole at the Australian PGA, I had to two-putt from about 50 feet, I guess, for the win, and I ended up having a three-footer to win, and I missed the three-footer, so that was the worst moment because I just wanted to, dig a hole and jump into it, basically. Yep. And then about 4 holes later, in a playoff with Peter Lonard, who's played in the US for a number of years, I ended up holding a bunker shot on the 4th playoff hole to win the tournament. And as it turned out, I had to win the tournament to win our Order of Merit, which is always a goal of mine as well, because it was the last event of the year. So I killed two birds with one stone, so to speak. I won the tournament, which I've always wanted to win, and the Order of Merit. So, but I tell you what, it was an absolute roller coaster of emotions over those final hour.
Yeah, that's a crazy finish indeed. Thank you for recapping that memory in golf. Again, it's Nick O'Hearn joining us in the Course of Life. Let's talk about where playing is for you these days. Tell me just in general about your life and golf schedule and how much time you make for being out on the course these days.
Oh, I'm still out on the course a fair bit, but I'm mostly helping other golfers now. For the last 5 or 6 years since I stopped playing full-time in the US. We moved back to Australia a few years ago, but about 6 years ago, I actually wrote my first book called Tour Mentality, which is on the mental side of the game. And, it sort of came a bit by accident. Just some friends asked me about my thoughts and I was explaining it to them. And they said, oh, you should write a book on all this. And I said, there's plenty of mental game books out there already. And they said, yeah, but none of them are written by tour pros. They're all written by sports psychologists. So it gave me the idea to write this first book, and it's had some. It's got a bit of a cult following. It had some success, and then when COVID came along, we were locked down here in Melbourne, in Australia, for a long time, and it just gave me a chance to write up a follow-up book, so to speak. So I wrote this book called How to Play Your Best Golf, which is a bit more about strategy, preparation, course management. A lot on short game scoring, and really, it's a culmination of all the things I've been helping golfers with over the last few years, because that's basically what I do now is I take people out on the golf course and show them how to play and get the most out of their games. And I just get such a kick out of, turning a 15 handicapper who's always wanted to reach single figures, how they can achieve that within about 6 months. So that's sort of my, things out on the golf course. I don't really play competitively much anymore. I'll play the odd event. I'm into TV commentary now, which is a lot of fun down here in Australia, and doing some media work. And
it's been great seeing you, on that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm very heavily involved. Everything's to do with golf, so to speak, and enjoying life back in Australia again.
Very cool. That's great to hear that update. And yeah, I don't profess to be much of a pro either when it comes to taking people around the course, but I love the moniker of, I can't help your swing today, but I can help you maybe get around the course a little faster. Talk to me about what your new book presents in terms of just some simple tricks to trim a few strokes simply with course management, not even how you swing the club.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I don't really teach people, how to swing the club. I'm not a great person to talk to as far as technique goes, but I know how to get the ball in the hole really quickly, which is what we all want to do, right? Everyone has their own swing, their own putting stroke and things like that. And I guess my wife summed it up really well the other day. She said, your book is about everything you don't learn on the driving range. And I thought, yeah, that's a pretty cool way to look at it. So, if someone asked me the other day, okay, if you had an 18 handicapper and you caddied for them, what do you think you could get them to shoot? And I said, well, I could get them to take 6 strokes off their score immediately. And 2 of those would be through just club selection, because I think a lot of golfers think they hit the ball further than they do. I mean, one of my favorite sayings is, look, if you want to hit a 7-iron further, hit a 6-iron, Don't try and hit a 6-iron further. Why don't you take one more club? So just through hitting the correct club into the greens, you can shave it, at least 1 or 2 strokes there. Another 2 strokes, I think, is about reading greens and getting the right speed, because, again, another thing I love to say to people is speed is more important than line with putting. I mean, most 3 putts come about because your speed is off. It's not because you're so wide, it's because you're too long or you're too short. So if you can have good speed on the greens and you can read greens effectively, you'll save a couple of strokes there very easily. And then the other 2 strokes, so if I say an 18 handicapper, if they were going to drop 6 strokes,
right,
there's 4 already. So that the other 2 would be just through building a really good pre-shot routine and how you go about walking into the ball and applying your mental side to each shot, because I don't see too many golfers having a very consistent routine. And that's one of the big questions people ask me. They say, how can I be more consistent? And I said, well, it all starts with having a consistent pre-shot routine and what you do before you hit the golf ball. That's really, really important. So right there's at least 6 shots. And then I haven't even started on, course strategy and how to play in the wind and hit off different lies and things like that. So that's kind of what the book's all about, is just to help golfers get the most out of what they already have, basically.
Definitely. That's a great tease. So check out How to Play Your Best Golf Strategies from a Tour Pro. It's on sale on Amazon, everywhere where you find books, from Nick O'Hearn now. And the connection that you and I have is very unique, because we're both closely affiliated with the D3 Golf app, which has been a really cool way for not only myself and my co-host, Michael, to play matches against each other and play really competitive golf in unique formats. But you're able to do it with pretty much anyone around the world. Tell me a little bit about your involvement specifically with D3 and how you got wind of the team and everything they're doing.
Yeah, well, I absolutely love this golf app, because, when I was talking about match play as a kid when I was growing up here in Australia, we'd always have a bit of, I guess you'd call it, action on the side. I mean, back in the day,
I was wondering what that action was, Nick. What was that? What was that action level when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, well, it was like 10 cents, 10 cents, and 10 cents. So,
yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
For the front, the back, and the match. I mean, what's that? The equivalent of a dime, and dime, I guess. But now that this company is D3, which basically means dollar. $1 for the front, $1 for the back, and $1 for the match. So. I'm not into massive gambling, but I certainly want a little bit of competition and something on the side, because that's just what makes it more interesting. And a few years ago, a friend of mine that I was doing a little bit of work with, he said to me, I've got this connection that is involved with golf, and they want to get this betting app going. I'm thinking, well, hey, that just ticks every box for me. I love my golf and I like a bit of action on the side. So that's when I met Tom Naramore, who's the CEO of D3 Golf, and we got talking about this mobile app that he's creating, and I just fell in love with it straight away, and I thought, this is awesome. And then, as you sort of alluded to, the best part about it is you don't actually have to be playing with the person to have a game with them. You can have a game with someone, in another state, or eventually it'll be in another country. So I'll be able to play you at your home course, and I'm playing at my home course here in Australia, and we can have our little game on the side. So it's a fantastic golf app, and one that I'm really excited about.
I'm curious, what's your favorite format? There's a variety on the app, Skin, Stableford, Nassau. There's several available, but what do you typically like to play with? Let's just say if you're just doing a home match with your mates.
Well, it's interesting. Whenever I play against my mates, they always say, well, how many shots are you going to give me? How many strokes?
Yes,
I'm off about a +3 handicap these days.
Okay.
And I say, well, are we going to play a stroke game, or are we going to play Stableford, or are we going to play match play, or something like that? And they go, why? And I said, well, if it's stroke, I'll give you 20 shots. And if it's match play, I'll give you 15. And they think about it and they go, okay, let's play match play then. because they know if it's stroke, well, then they have to count every shot, all the penalties and the lost balls. Whereas match play, one hole is only one hole. So I love the match play side of it, because then it just gets really interesting and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't think we want to count all those shots out of the bunker as a handicap's playing against you. That's a good point.
No, that's exactly. And that's the beauty of match play. I mean, when I was talking about the world match plays a while ago, I remember playing Dudley Hart in a match, and we ended up halving a hole with triple bogey. So, I mean, even the pros do it. So
very cool. Again, Nick O'Hearn hopping on here, talking all things golf. Let's get to some quick shot questions right now. Random stuff across the board here. Let's maybe take you back a little bit, a few years. If right now, maybe you had one PGA Tour event that you would love to just re-enter, just to give it a go for 1 week, maybe any U.S. stop, where would you like that to be?
Oh, it would have to be the Memorial. I mean, I loved Jack Nicklaus's event. It's just, he was my idol growing up, and it's a golf course that really fit my eye. I always played pretty well there. And yeah, some of my favorite memories are from there. So I would always have loved to have won his golf tournament and have Jack shake your hand as you walk off the last green. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Obviously, there's a lot of news going on in the world of golf right now, so I want to get your quick thoughts on everything regarding the PGA Tour and the LIV Tour and different formats being introduced to the game. Just your general thoughts on everything that's going on with the change and the tours now being offered and opportunities presented to these players, and where you think this leads for the future of golf.
Oh, really? There's something going on? I didn't know. No, I'm only kidding.
Yeah, just a little bit of buzz, right?
Yeah. Just a little buzz at the moment. I mean, it's a fascinating, time that we're in. And, even though in the short term it seems to be pretty much fracturing the game of golf and it's a bit of an issue, I think in the long term it'll be a really good thing for the game, because it's changing things up, which is nice. I mean, the PGA Tour have obviously always had pretty strong hold on the best players and where they're playing. And now that we've got this new, I guess, exhibition series is the best way to put it, coming in. Yeah. They're really throwing up an insane amount of money, which they're never going to get a return on, to really disrupt the whole game of golf. Now, what their intentions are, we kind of know what that is, obviously, but it's throwing up some very interesting ideas around team golf, and I'm a big fan of team golf. I love playing in the President's Cups and maybe this four-man formats that they've got going, where you can have your own little group of guys playing together. I quite like that idea. I don't really like the way they're going about it with the shotgun starts and things like that, but it has some merit. But the amount of money they're throwing around, it's in a way it's a bit sickening, to be honest. But for the pros that are out there and making this money, it's hard to refuse that kind of cash, I would imagine. But again, it depends on where your morals stand and things like that. But we're in a very interesting time right now. And, I feel for someone like Rory McIlroy, who's basically after every round of golf, he's got to answer all these questions and defend the tour in a way. And where it leads to, only time will tell. It's hard to go, okay, what's this going to look like in 3 years or 5 years' time? It may be there, it may not be, who knows? But in a way, I think in the long run, it will be good for the game. I'm just not quite sure how as yet.
Absolutely. Well said. And just kind of politics aside and focusing on golf, I do like what you said about the team aspect. There are some really neat aspects to the new formats that are presented. And if we see the way a South African team dominated in the first LIV event, and, the thoughts of maybe a really unique Australian team, could be fun competition in the future. So we'll see if that presents itself. Let's wrap up with our 19th hole question, as we always do on the Course of Life here, Nick. This is a pretty simple one. No politics here. This is all about food and drink. When you finish your round on your favorite golf course and you get into the clubhouse, what's your go-to order for a meal and a drink?
Ooh, well, when I was in the US, it had to be the club sandwich. You rate golf courses by their club sandwich.
Yes.
Here in Australia, it's a little different, I suppose. There's a few more healthier options, so to speak. But a bit of calamari or something like that's always fun. And beverage-wise, it depends on the time of the year, but I'm a real sucker for wine. So, it might be a nice cold Chardonnay, or if it's in the middle of winter like we are here now, it'd be a nice heavy, bold Shiraz. So always a glass of wine after you finish.
No, that sounds lovely indeed. Nick, I will say I had the trip of my lifetime to Australia several years back. I got to play New South Wales as well. Very, very notable club in Sydney when I stayed there and had an amazing time. So best of luck to everything with what you're doing out in Australia now, the family, the game, everything going on in life, and look forward to connecting with you again. Thanks again for joining.
No problem. Great to chat, Alex. Cheers.
And we're back. Great chat there with Nick O'Hearn. He's got that new book coming out, which is going to give us all the tips and tricks we need from a pro. I'm really looking forward to that one. And as soon as he's back stateside, we're going to be playing him in a D3 challenge. So
yeah,
that's going to be a lot of fun.
I would love the honor to start just challenging people that are way out of my league to matches. Yeah. That'd be fun. So
it's got a built-in handicap in the app too. So, you might be able to beat Nick O'Hearn thanks to that.
Yeah, and there's no lying in the D3 app, by the way. People always wonder, like, oh, no, you can just sandbag and just throw your handicap wherever you want. No. D3 keeps a separate handicap. So they're going to keep you honest. And we're going to compare what you actually say your handicap is versus what your D3 handicap actually is. So the numbers don't lie. Yeah, hopefully we'll get a challenge going soon with Nick. But if it goes anything like his matches against Tiger, I don't stand a chance. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. You're going to lose. But it'll be fun. And I'm definitely going to lose. So,
Mike, you realize we just had someone on our podcast that beat Tiger Woods head-to-head twice. We say that out loud. Unbelievable.
This has been a banner year for our guest list.
Crushing it.
Nick O'Hearn. I'm blanking on all of them now, which is just the marquee Michael moment.
Well, that's okay
right
because you'd have to name every single guest that we've had so far in 2022. So that'd be quite a challenge. But regardless, you can find them your own if you're listening right now in our archives and listen to all of our past interviews as well. Be sure to subscribe or find Course of Life on your favorite podcast app where you're listening right now, so you can get these episodes every week sent right to you.
Let's talk a little baseball, Alex, because I got to give you props. Your Boston Red Sox are now the second best team in the AL East.
Yeah, this is perfect timing. I didn't even ask for this to be induced, but you were doing the trash talk on Memorial Day. I said we circle back July 4th, and here we are circling back, and we're back. We're in the mix. We're just like this is every year in the AL East, Mike. I don't know why you thought you were just going to pull away and lap us and win by 10 or 15 games. Like, that's never the way it goes in the AL East. So the order is restored as we head into the summer.
I mean, you can say order is restored. You're still 11 games back of the Yankees.
Not worried. Wild card where we live. It's okay. You guys are going to have to get through the Astros just like we are. Well, one of us is going to have to do it eventually in October. That's the moral of the story here.
We split the series with the trashy Astros. So
I did see that. Yeah. So we'll see how the Red Sox fare in future series with Houston. But yeah, a little bit of order restored. We got a way to go, though, admittedly. But we're finding some form at Fenway Park.
Let's also go ahead and do a little alma mater update plus NHL update, because we don't usually talk about the NHL, but we usually talk about our alma mater. So this works perfectly. Stanley Cup is over. Colorado Avalanche, congratulations. You won the cup for the first time since like 2000, 2001. And you've done it thanks to a Quinnipiac Bobcat alum in Devon Toews.
Yeah, Devon Toews, the younger brother of Jonathan Toews, the former Chicago Blackhawk and world champion in his own right. So now younger brother Dev gets a championship of his own. He had some time in the Islanders and I believe a couple other franchises, but he landed in Colorado. And that team was an absolute behemoth in the West all year. And they took it to the two-time defending champion. So shout out to Devon, the QU alum, getting the Stanley Cup for the Bobcats. Love it.
Yep. Let's hashtag always end with food.
Yep, brought to you by our friends at Toasty Bites, toasty.com/COL, promo code COL20 for refreshing and healthy snacks. Let's start with my food bit because I'm going to take you to a vibe that you don't necessarily know, but I think you're going to get it. Okay. So after a long night of drinking alcohol, unfortunately, there are times when you overserve yourself and you're just immensely dehydrated the next morning. You don't know that emotion, Mike, but I know you do know the sensation of a great greasy meal. So often what I need in these scenarios, when I've got the hangover and it's a Saturday or Sunday morning, is I need to head somewhere for the greasiest meal possible just to sop up all the alcohol and get out of the system. So my grease meal that I went with this past Saturday hit the spot unlike anything else. It was a BLT with those homemade restaurant potato chips and some buffalo wings, Mike. I hit every single base I possibly could. The question is, Mike, regardless of your status the night before, the next day, what's your go-to grease meal?
Pizza's always a good one.
Yeah.
Always. You can't go wrong with pizza, really.
Yeah. No. How about a good leftover cold pizza? How do you reheat a cold pizza? What's your go-to on that?
Well, depending on the pizza, I don't reheat it at all.
Yeah, a greasy cold pizza the next day could be great.
Do you remember? I'm going to throw back to New England here.
Yep.
Did you ever go to Papagino's?
Oh, yes. It's been too long.
Your pizza was fantastic cold the next day. Just fantastic. The sauce was sweet enough, and it was the crust didn't get too hard. It was just perfection the next day.
Yeah, it's just I can't really figure out what it is, but it's that bread oil combo when you need the grease in your system the most. It just hits in the right ways. So that was my meal of the week this past weekend. What were you up to?
Once again, I made some babka.
Yeah, I've lost count of how many different flavors and iterations of babka you've done.
There's more.
But what was the latest iteration?
So this was a chocolate cookie crumble babka.
Yeah, this was hitting hard on IG. If you haven't seen it already, wow, this was a killer. It looked quite tasty.
Chocolate babka with a cream cheese filling and crumbled Oreos, and then of course with all that extra vanilla syrup on top, and then more crumbled Oreos on top of that. This was, as they all are, a triumph.
Yeah,
spectacular.
I mean, the chocolate cream combo. You're taking the babka to new limits now. I'd always interpreted babka as something that got thrown in with rather dry toppings or ingredients, but you're adding a lot of different texture to this dessert. You're taking it to the next level.
Yep. So we'll see what comes next. We'll see. And if you're local in the Savannah area, keep your eyes peeled. Might be something coming for you.
Ooh, exciting tease there. Love that. Stay tuned and follow Always End with Food Pod for more food content as well. Check out CoL Podcast on IG. For Alex, he's Mike. It's been a fantastic week. We'll see you next week.